Be honest with me. When you buy something new, like let's say a brand new phone, do you carefully unbox it? Do you slap a phone case on it, slap a screen protector on it, and then treat it like royalty for the first 2 weeks that you have it? And then you start to get a little bit complacent where you might not worry if you drop it. Oops. The question I want to ask you today is, could you be taking better care of your things? Better question. Why should you be taking better care of your things? Let's begin. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in this video, I'm talking about why you take better care of your things, and if you're someone who doesn't, why you should be taking better care of your things, and why it's so important to do this. I have noticed a trend that lots of people tend to follow, and when I say lots of people, I know lots of people that tend to follow this. It's like a theoretical light switch. So I flick the switch and an item that they've purchased goes from being a luxury item that no one can touch and no one can get anywhere near, and it's like their little baby, to becoming something that it doesn't matter if it breaks, it doesn't matter anymore, it just becomes a regular everyday item, when in actual fact that item still holds value. And this happens within a very short window. We're not talking over the course of years, we're talking within a very short period of time. This mindset then gets applied to lots of items. We're talking things like clothing, equipment, technology, anything you can really think of that holds value that you use regularly, that you purchase every now and then. We'll say within a 2-year window. You buy clothes regularly, you might buy a new phone every couple of years. Let's start positive. The best and only positive thing about this mindset, in my opinion, is that the mentality surrounding this flick the light switch, it's no longer that important, it's just a regular everyday item, is that the item, instead of getting locked in a cupboard like a collectible, actually gets used. And I'm someone who is absolutely pro this. I personally do not buy things and clutter my house with things that I don't use. There's only one thing I collect, and that's Pokemon cards, and that's a video for another day based on the monetary value and the sentimental value it has to myself. But this absolutely is applicable to everything that I have in my house. I am a big advocate for using items that I buy, regardless of how nice they are. If I'm not going to get use out of it, I'm not going to put my money into it. If it's expensive, that doesn't mean I can't use it. It means I should use it because I've taken the time to save for that item with the intention of using it. So it's the only positive thing about this mentality. Now, the good stuff. The problem with this mentality is that complacency will kick in generally unintentionally, where from time to time, you'll be very careless with your items in very particular scenarios, which then lead to the following. So number one is the item breaking and needing to be replaced, meaning you need to fork out your own hard-earned dollars to replace an item that is probably relatively expensive and something that would be a massive inconvenience to you. Number two is that wear and tear happens. Like, let's use the phone example to continue that trend. You smash the screen. You might not need to replace the item, but using it is going to make you feel a little bit more, the quality's shit now. Like, it's not good anymore because unfortunately it's damaged. It puts this thought into your head that, okay, when the new iPhone comes out or the new phone comes out, I'm gonna buy it, which is a bad mentality to have. The final one is that the actual quality of the item is going to lose value. So you are complacent, you drop your phone, it shatters the screen, it loses resale value. And on top of that, it's not as fun to use anymore. Like I said, basically, all of these are disadvantages of being complacent. This mentality especially can cause problems later down the line or in the future. It's not necessarily a big deal if I smash my phone. Yes, it may be a lot of money, and yes, it may be a massive inconvenience, but it will not be the end of the world. I'm gonna say the end of the world a couple of times in this video, just to set the scene. This logic that I'm now talking about will go into future purchases which are much more valuable. Things like your house or your car, things that actually aren't easy to fix, things that aren't cheap to fix, and things that will take a long time to fix, which can definitely throw your way of life, your savings, your goals, and put them on hold. It can be problematic. I'll use the word problematic. Leading into this, I've noticed that people fall into really bad habits, and for lack of a better word, they neglect responsibilities such as doing things like preventative maintenance on things like their house. This in turn can cost you a lot of money down the line, like I said. So I'm gonna just go through a quick few examples of some topics and items that you could perform preventative maintenance on, regularly clean, or just be cautious about how you handle them, and just make that mental note of, I should handle this with care. I should be careful about how I'm holding this item or how I'm moving this item, just for the sake of giving you an example of what I'm talking about. Just understand that what I do say is not everything. There is many things that this can be applied to, and I just want you to have a think in your own circumstances or in your own situation. Leave a comment down below of an example that would be basically applicable to you. An example for routine maintenance would be things like your car. Make sure your tires are pumped pretty regularly. Do it once a month. Check under the hood of your car. Make sure all your gauges are correct. Make sure that there's no lights on your actual dash showing up when your car's on. Making sure there's water in your windshield wipers when you go to clean your windows. Things that are kind of effortless, take 5 to 10 minutes, but will make sure that if something's wrong, you'll be made aware and not continue driving that car until something really goes wrong. Things at your house, you might have an air conditioner that needs to be cleaned, making sure like the fan hasn't sucked in any leaves or anything like that. And one real popular one is leather conditioning, like your leather. I have boots that require maintenance. I do it every 6 weeks. I leather condition them to make sure that the leather is going to last me a long period of time. And I've made videos talking about the products that I use, such as my R.M. Williams boots, being a fanboy of them, and why it's so important to make sure that they are kept in a pristine condition. For routine cleaning, obviously, things like your car, make sure you clean it every now and then. Make sure that dust doesn't just accumulate and bird shit doesn't get everywhere, because that eats the paint. It can damage the car over time. If you have a personal computer, make sure that you clean the inside of it every now and then. Use some compressed air and get the dust out so that it doesn't malfunction eventually. And then things like your phone and your laptops and stuff, or your electronics, wipe your screens with a microfiber cloth and make sure that it's clean. It's little effortless things you can do that will definitely go a long way. And I'm going to get into why you should do this in a minute, but just understanding what you can do is the first concept that I'm trying to cover in this video. And then the handling and conscious aspect that you can do. So one good example, and this is something that I for a long time was like, whatever, is the way you slide furniture on your floors. If you're someone with floorboards or someone with even tiles and you're just sliding furniture on your floor, like chairs and things like that, you're gonna damage your floors, and that is going to make it look crap. For starters, there's no way around it. It's gonna damage it over time, or it has the potential to damage it over time. And on top of that as well, it's something that's not cheap to fix. Ways to fix this is to just be cautious about how you handle that furniture, or stick like little foam felt things on the bottoms of the legs so that if you do slide it, it doesn't cut into the floor or chip your tiles. Food for thought. Might seem over the top, but it's effortless to do. A really good example, and she's probably going to kill me for this, but my partner recently actually had to buy a brand new laptop because she left it in a careless place and unfortunately dropped something on it, and it shattered the screen and basically made it not usable anymore, which is super unfortunate. What's more unfortunate is she actually used that laptop for her work. And why is this problematic? It's because it's expensive to replace something like that. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. Was it a good learning lesson? Absolutely. But there's just a little bit of effort that has to go into making sure that that doesn't happen again now. And unfortunately, she learned the hard way. Like I said, it's not the end of the world, but it's a great example of why taking care of your things, even just putting that little bit of extra effort to put your laptop back in its laptop case and put it away at the end of the day or at the end of use, which might seem over the top, but truthfully, it's just going to remove the chances of something going wrong with it tenfold. It's going to make the situation a lot less likely to occur. From my own experience, this has really worked well. And has it been hard to implement? Not really. The thing that I just want to touch on as well is that my partner was technically financially prepared for something like this to happen. She has built her emergency fund to a point that has got her in a pretty comfy spot. And on top of that, she is quite good with her money. So the actual expense wasn't too detrimental to her savings or her goals. But for someone who definitely wasn't prepared for something like this, it cost her $4,000. I'm not gonna lie, $4,000 is a lot of money. For someone who doesn't have that lying around, especially if they rely on it for their work, they're gonna be in trouble. This is going to be one of those examples that literally unfold their freaking life. Someone living paycheck to paycheck, relies on that laptop to get their paycheck, and they don't have any money to buy a new one, they're in trouble, period. Think about it. I want to add one other point to this story as well, because people have come at me in real life with kind of like an attack saying it's over the top, it's not worth doing, it's too much, it's time consuming to follow this path of being conscious about everything and cleaning everything regularly and stuff. I want to counter that with, if you break your laptop, the amount of time you're gonna have to sink into finding a new one, going through the process of figuring out where the money's gonna come from to actually pay for it, and then have to go through that process of inconvenience of buying this new item, waiting for it to come, setting it up again. What's harder, spending 2 minutes to put something away, or going through that entire process and the actual feeling of frustration? It's just gonna, it doesn't even compare. And if you're someone who goes, I'd rather do that, no probs, go do it. But I don't believe you for a second. And there's no way that it would be easier than taking care of that item from the get-go. I'm not rant over. You get my point. The benefits of building habits like this isn't only you reaping the rewards of, A, if you clean your gutters, not having clogged gutters, or you not scratching your floorboards by moving furniture, not having to replace furniture or the floorboards. On top of that, generally items like your laptops and your phones and things will hold resale value, because today, technology is really good. It actually lasts a pretty decent amount of time. And if you're someone who upgrades regularly, taking care of that item, as dumb as it sounds that I need to say it out loud, but taking care of that item actually will hold resale value and potentially give you some money back into your pocket for building these habits. I have sold every single phone I have owned since the iPhone 4 for almost half of its original value. It's not just 2 phones. I've had an iPhone 4, iPhone 6, iPhone X, now iPhone 11, and every single one of them I've sold for over half their original value, and not within a 1-year window, within 2 to 4 years of owning those phones. Why? Because I took care of them, they ran perfectly, and people saw the value in the ad that I posted. I took a bit of care posting the ad, and I waited a little bit of time, but I had what's called the upper hand. I'm sure you've heard me say that before, but my point here is that that's a real world life example of how doing this and putting this mindset to work actually pays off. Another good example is my laptop. I'm recording the laptop, looking at myself right now on a screen. I set it up right here in front of me. It doesn't have to be a fancy studio. The message is the thing that I'm trying to get into your brain as a watcher. And I've had this since 2014 and it still performs flawlessly. I spent a little bit of extra money for the actual model that I've got, and it's a 6-year-old laptop. It's fantastic. It hasn't got a scratch on it. If I want to sell this right now, I genuinely believe I would get at least half the value of it back to put towards my next purchase, which would be the equivalent of today. Because I do this with everything that I own, and it pays off. Why am I ranting? Why am I telling you this? Because it works, and it is such a good feeling knowing that taking care of your things, as easy as it is, pays off. Real world examples, proof that it actually works. My point overall is to take better care of the things that you own, because the payoff will generally be worth the level of effort you have to put in. That being for things like it performing and resale value. No more to be said about that. I encourage you to try this. I encourage you to maybe put something into your phone like a reminder saying, clean my car once every month. That could be a vacuum and a wash, and make sure there's nothing sticky in your cup holders and things like that. Super simple, super easy, and a great way to get started. Overall, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope I kind of encouraged you to give this a go, and I hope that it works out for you in the long run. If you do enjoy this type of content, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Good luck.